Hey guys, what's up? What's up, guys? How you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing great. So we are starting our conversation tonight. We're gonna be talking about buying untitled land, a lawyer's advice, and welcome to Amity Realtors Chats. This time round, we're doing these chats on a Tuesday, and definitely, we've been on these chats for almost 2 years now. And we wanted to have some things to discuss for our customers and people that are always out there buying land and, have lots of questions about what they're buying or what they need to know about land. So first and foremost, just give me an emoji if you're listening to me and you can hear me well. That's the number one thing I want to know, if you are able to pick into my voice clearly and you can hear me well. I see someone already on the Amity Realtors platform. Kindly give me an emoji if you can hear me. And also go ahead and share this conversation in your spaces so we can have people join us. So I'm just waiting for a signal to show that I am loud and clear. That will actually enable me to be able to go forward as I wait for Counsel Allan to be able to join us and we have a conversation. That's one of the major things we're going to be talking about today. Buying untitled land, a lawyer's advice. Okay, cool. So just in time, I see Counsel is trying to connect to me, but maybe his network is a bit. Oh, fantastic. Thank you for the emoji. So meaning that I'm loud and clear. Hey guys, welcome to the chat. Happy 2023. This is our first chat in 2023, and we hope it's going to be a great year. We hope you all doing well. We hope you've been through this first month of 2023 in a great way, and we know that we can be able to kickstart 2023 in style and in a very grounded level when it comes to real estate and the conversations that we always have. So first and foremost, this conversation is powered by Amity Realtors, a real estate agent in Mbara, Western Uganda. And of course, if you're out there, you're looking for commercial land, you're looking for agricultural land, you're looking for prime plots within Western Uganda, Amity Realtors has got your back. Just make sure that you do check them out and they'll be able to recommend some nice properties that you can always be able to buy. So I can see Counsel Allan is already here. I'm just waiting for Counsel to send me a request here, then I'll be able to approve it so we can get this conversation started. But hey, remember, this conversation is actually about learning. It's about sharing. It's about also talking about the real estate sector, talking about, land and any related issues to that. So if you're out there and you have something to contribute, just go ahead, put down your question in the comment section. You'll be able to see the comments. If you look down on your screen on the right-hand side, there is a message icon or a comments icon. Just tap on that and then leave your comment or leave your question there. I'll be able to read your question and then put it to the speakers that will be talking to us. I'm looking forward to hearing from Mr. Herbert, who is a director at Amity Realtors. He'll be talking to us what is Amity planning for their customers in 2023 and what is already on ground and what do they expect and what should the customers be looking out for this year. Yeah, so it's going to be a powerful conversation, guys. And the person that is going to be talking to us has got lots of insights that you need to know. Now, as people that are planning to buy land, you're planning to build a house, you're planning to start agriculture, you're planning to start a project soon, this conversation is actually for you. So as soon as you're able to connect here, just make sure you share the link and let your peers, let your friends join us so we can get started. So I'm just waiting for my guest speaker to join in, and then we'll kickstart this conversation and everything will go as planned. If you are not able to comment openly on this subject, just go into my DMs and make your comment there or post your question there. Then I'll be able to read it out for the speakers to answer you there and then. Welcome to Amity Realtors Chats, and I'm your host, Ugaman. As usual, this is our second year running with these chats, but this is our third episode of doing these conversations. And I hope you guys learn a lot from this, and also you get to benefit from the knowledge that is going to be shared by Counsel Allan. So my prayer is that we do have stable network for Counsel Allan, who is going to be joining us. I am waiting for him to request for the mic, but it looks like he's trying to connect to us here. So I'm definitely going to wait for him. But also, if Director Herbert, you're already online, kindly do send me a request to approve you so we can kickstart this conversation as we wait for Counsel Allan to be able to join us. So, Herbert, if you're out there and you can hear me well, just send me a request so I can add you to the speakers section, and there we're good to go. Oh, fantastic. Counsel, are you able to hear me? If you could unmute your mic.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. You're loud and clear. I actually suspect your network could be much better than mine.
That's good. That would be fantastic. Let's hope it stays that way and yours gets better.
Yeah, so fantastic. So, Counsel, I know quite a number of people who are already joining us here, and those who will be listening to this conversation later might not know who you are, and they might want a bit of introduction so they get to understand you better. Just briefly, Counsel, who is Counsel Allan, if you to talk to the people that need to know you?
Thank you very much. Allow me call you Ugaman.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay, sir.
Yes, that's my name, Allan Sasire, and I am currently managing partner of Katembeko and Company Advocates in Mbara. This is a firm that has been in existence since 1979. My senior partner is Mr. Hilary Katembeko, with whom we work, and a few other associates. I am a graduate of law and an advocate of the High Court and all court subordinate there too. I have been in the legal field for now close to 10 years, and I come with all that experience. I am also a member of the ULS Governing Council representing the Western region. I am a family man, and my family is based in Mbara. I thank you. I think that can be enough brief.
Fantastic. Thank you. We hope the entire resume has been tackled a bit, because I know you really wear so many hats, but I know what you've told us is actually something good. We can kickstart this conversation. So, Counsel, you're most welcome to Amity Realtors Chats. This is our third episode running. We started these chats about 2 years ago, and we've been having different episodes. So I'm so sure that our listeners are very, very glad that we are back with these chats, and they're looking forward to picking lots of insights from you. Counsel, if I could ask, how is Mbara in this new year? How is the general picture and, the environment where you are? If you could just tell us that.
Mbara started off as generally a hot place, but we've had a few scattered showers, and I can say that people who bought land in wetlands are facing it rough because the volumes of water have turned up. Riveries is our biggest source of water in Mbara, and its water levels have risen. So for anybody buying land and thinking of buying land in wetlands, this is the time actually. There's always that saying that if you ever want to buy a plot of land in Bwaise, you go during the wet season. So if you ever want to buy a plot in Mbara, this is the time.
Oh, fantastic. So, Counsel, I just need to give a preamble to this conversation we're going to have. Lots of people I know I'm very, very convinced that you have been reading the news, you have watched the news year in, year out. One of the most controversial things that we always see in the news are land disputes. And we know where all this begins from, and we know lots of issues that come up even when people buy land after spending their hard-earned money. Now, our sponsor for this conversation, who always bring me onto this conversation here, Amity Realtors, they deal in land. They deal in selling land, commercial plots, and agricultural land. And this is one of the reasons we keep sharing this conversation, because we want to empower people with the knowledge and the insights they need to know as they go into these deals, as they go into these ventures. Now, it's also not new that a lot of people have lost life because of land, and it's also not new that lots of people have been defrauded because of going into business concerning land, and they lack certain knowledge to know when someone is taking advantage of them. So, Counsel, there is a basic question that I want to start with to break today's conversation. What is a land title in the first place?
Thank you very much, Ugaman. A land title, I could define it as one, conclusive proof of ownership of land, and that is according to the Registration of Titles Act. But basically, it is a document that is produced in a duplicate. The original copy stays with the land registry, and what the owner gets is the duplicate copy. Unfortunately, the practice is that most of us use the owner's copy as the original copy, but legally speaking, the owner's copy stays with the lands. So that is created under Section 59 of the Registration of Titles Act, and the courts have ruled that anyone who has a land title has conclusive proof of ownership of land. Of course, there are exceptions, that is fraud and any other explanation that may be plausible in the circumstances.
Fantastic. Thank you, Counsel, for that answer. Now, Counsel, today's conversation is about buying untitled land, a lawyer's advice. We know that there is land that initially people buy and has no land titles. Would you tell us, actually, for someone buying land, where does the journey start from? And also, as we head into this, what is your advice for, regarding things to do with the titles, and does all land come with a title from the word go, or titles can be created also on some land, and which land is legal and illegal? Counsel, over to you.
Thank you once again. When we talk of buying untitled land, what we talk about is, like you've asked, I'll want to tackle the question of where do we begin from. The first question is, are you interested in buying? If I am interested in buying, then my next question is going to be, who is selling? If I know a certain Joanita is selling a piece of land, my next question will be, is she the owner? And that's where the biggest question comes in. Who owns land? And how do I know that I am buying from the owner? Because legally speaking, I cannot sell what is not mine. I cannot pass title that is not mine. Even if my land is not brought under the Registration of Titles Act, I own it and I have capacity to sell it. But legally speaking, all this is derived from the Constitution. When you look at our Constitution and our land policies in Uganda, land belongs to the people. That is Article 237. Land belongs to the people, and they own it in various forms. So that is where we begin from as individuals to own the land. But we know that a lot of fraud comes onto this. There are various tenures that have been described under sections of the Land Act, that is Section 3.2. And then you talk of the freeholds, the leaseholds, and then the customary tenures and the milo tenures. But unfortunately, we are not going to probably go into this for now. Let us focus on somebody who is buying land that is not registered under the Registration of Titles Act, or does not have a certificate of title as described. First, to get a certificate of title, you must know that that land is going to be surveyed, first of all, and its coordinates are going to be uploaded to a national system. A deed plan drawn for that particular land, and then a certificate of title produced. But the certificate of title will have other details. Most importantly is the title page, and then the deed plan, and then the encumbrance page, if there are any encumbrances where they can be registered. So the land we are talking about today is a piece of land someone owns but has not brought it under the Registration of Titles Act. And this could be freehold, it could be customary land, it could be milo tenure, and they have that interest in that land. They own it. What do we look at? Legally speaking, from a lawyer's perspective, is that buying this kind of land, you must also be knowing why are people going for this kind of land. First, it is usually cheaper. And given our economic hardships, you will find it easier for somebody buying that land. And then secondly, much of the land we have in Uganda has not been brought under the Registration of Titles Act. There's quite some vast land that people own, have lived on it. It was probably customary land, and then people shared, people got individual interest in these pieces of land, and they own it. So we cannot stop the dealing in untitled land. As a lawyer, these are my few points I would advise somebody dealing in this piece of land. Number one, they are basically what we call due diligences. But I will categorize them into about 3 or 4. And then we'll begin with establishment of the true owner or the vendor of this land. As you establish in true ownership, you may require this particular vendor to provide you with a purchase agreement from which they purchased this land. Probably they are not the first owners. And then secondly, if somebody says, look, Allan, I didn't buy this land, but I've inherited this from probably my father and forefathers and the great grandees, because it is family land, this is what I shared. Legally speaking, this person should be able to give you what we call probably minutes of a family meeting where they sat and agreed that this land is distributed to you. But also, before those minutes come up, we assume there was somebody with letters of administration who was charged with that duty. And if that person was executing his role as an administrator to distribute the estate of your late father and give you that piece of land, he ought to have filed an inventory in court. An inventory is like an account of how me, who was given powers by court to distribute the estate of a deceased person, managed to actually do it, who got what, and who didn't get, who got how much. So that is the legal document that gave this my particular vendor land that I am purchasing from him. Once I've done that, I'm also going to establish, I am still talking about ownership of this land. I am also going to ask you to look for any other contrary facts. Are there any other disputes? Is anybody laying a claim over this particular piece of land? Even if you've showed me, yes, you got it distributed and this is your share, you purchased this land, but how am I going to know that there are no other contrary facts? Now, this is where we talk about the neighbors and the local authorities. You can contact them, people who have lived in this area for quite some good time. The lawyers know, and the lawyers tell you that the gentleman is the owner of that piece of land. Secondly, let us establish the boundaries of the land you are buying, and that is the amount of land. If I am buying an acre of land, how am I going to know it is an acre of land? Unfortunately, in most of the communities that deal in untitled land, this is land that is probably in the rural areas, and people are not familiar with the legal steps that you're going to do to ensure that you're buying this land legally. But what you have to do is, one, engage services of a surveyor. Let's engage a surveyor. They will come on ground, still take coordinates of this acre of land, and they will know where this land borders. Once they have taken coordinates, they are going to do something else for you. they're going to plot out what we call a map, or it's not a deed plan yet, but it's a map showing, it's like a sketch map showing your land and then how it borders, who it borders, the boundaries, and all that. This surveyor is also going to map out who the neighbors are to your land. So once you have done that, that is going to save you a lot. I have, in my practice, adopted something like that. Every time a client comes into my office and is buying untitled land, my first question is, do you know its boundaries? They say yes. I'm like, okay, give me the description. Then I ask them, do you know how and who it borders? And they tell me, here I know, here I don't know, here I've established this. All I know, the land, it is for my uncle. It used to be like that. But why do we insist on a surveyor, especially for untitled land? The challenge here is that let's assume I have a piece of 100 acres and I am selling 5 acres of this 100 acres. I am going to say, I, Allan Msasile, have sold 5 acres of my land to a Wanjewanita. Now the question will be, which of the 5 acres have I sold? This is a question that may not arise because probably at the time of purchase, all of us know that I am taking land in a particular corner which I have inspected and done that. But God forbid, either purchaser or vendor passes away or they're not around anymore. And how will the next person know? Also, this helps to deal with the fraudulent sellers of land, where you have circumstances of a particular plot of land being sold to over 10 people. Every time somebody new comes, he says, okay, this is the plot of land he showed because it doesn't take occupation. The plot remains vacant. Another one comes, they show him the same plot, they pay. And before you know it, his buyers, innocent buyers probably, are out there battling it out. But we are saying the services of a surveyor, by picking coordinates and plotting out the sketch plan, are going to save us all that hassle. The coordinates are on a national grid. I think they're even uploaded to the Google Maps. So they are not going to change. That's the beauty of it. It gives you specificity of the piece of land that you have purchased. Once we've done that, then we can confirm whether this land has any encumbrances. Unfortunate for the untitled land, we don't have any register of untitled land. Therefore, we are not going to be able to go to a land and carry out a search. But what we are going to do is, let's do it the usual way. Number one, look at the land. Go and inspect the land. There's a common saying that land is not vegetables. You're not going to find it in a marketplace and then you buy it without knowing who was the previous owner or who sold it to you. So one thing you have to do is step out of your comfort office, go visit the land, have a tour on the land, however big or small it is. Have a small tour, look at the land. This is when you're going to know that, okay, there are people occupying the land. Now, of these occupants of the land, we usually have different categories. Ask, are they tenants? Tenants are probably legally there and they are known. Are they squatters? Because if they are squatters, then they are illegally on this piece of land. And then, are they trespassers? All these are going to establish if you have visited the land. But if you remain in the comfort of your office, we now have a lot of technology services. Somebody sends you a pin, and then you can zoom into, see a piece of land. Probably some things are not going to be captured. You could even notice a few features. Is it a wetland? Because if you're buying into a wetland, you must be aware there are laws governing and barring that. Is it a river bank? If it's a river bank or a natural reservoir or a natural resource, am I leaving the prescribed distances that I'm not encroaching on that natural reservoir or natural resource? Then once you've done that, you're going to be able to know, okay, the land I am buying, even if it is untitled, I know there is a tenant who probably I have to compensate. Because trust me, you may not find land in Uganda that doesn't have tenants or occupants. It might be quite hard. So once you've done that, then the other diligences you have to look at, ask yourself or ask the buyer, is this family land? when we talk about family land, a lot of things come into play. We have had challenges where a gentleman has sold off his piece of land, but a few days later or months, a spouse comes up, a wife, let's say, and claims that, look, this is my land, this is our family land, and I never consented to the sale. Now, this brings us into play, and we wonder what family land is. When you look at sections of the Land Act, that is 38A and then 39, they define what land is. And the honorable justices of the courts have also gone ahead to agree that what amounts to family land is usually land on which is situated the ordinary residence of a family. When you talk of the ordinary residence of a family, this is where people live as a family. In other places, it is called a family home. Then secondly, family land is also such land on which is situated the ordinary residence of the family and from which that family derives sustenance. Much of our unregistered land is probably a banana plantation, a coffee plantation, such. It is always developed with such. So if you find a banana plantation, and this is the only plantation this family has, my dear buyer, you are going to have to require for family consent. The family must give consent. The spouse must give consent to your purchase of this land. Should you not get this consent, what is going to happen is that, again, we see courts have been very categorical. You look at the case of Intumwebaze versus Mpeyre Stephen and another. It is a High Court civil suit. It was actually determined here in Imbara. It was number 39 of 2010. Courts have said that where a spouse has not given consent to such family land, the purchase of the same is a nullity and legal in law and cannot be enforced. So, my dear friend, you need to know what family land is and what it amounts to. The other scenarios where such land has been termed as family land, where the family freely or voluntarily agrees that, look on guys, this shall always be our family land. We shall treat it and qualify it to be our family land. You can now look at land which is ancestral, and then land which has been determined to say, okay, we shall have our burial grounds here. That has automatically become family land. And then the other...
Counsel, just before you continue, I have a question there. There is quite a lot of people that always get into trouble when it comes to family land. Now, I just wanted you to give us pointers and things that qualify pieces of land to be family land, and also what someone maybe should look out for, because there are scenarios where some land people come claiming later on that, hey, this family land, we agreed never to sell it. But then maybe there is a buyer that has already bought part of it, and maybe they didn't know that was the case. So what should be the checkpoints, especially for people who are buying huge chunks of land, say like for agriculture, and they have no idea if what they're buying is family land? What should be the red points? What should be the stopping points? Like, what should they check out for to make sure they are doing the right thing before they lose their money?
Okay, thank you for the question. As I was explaining, is that family land, as legally known, we must avoid confusing family land with estate property. Estate property or land estate of a deceased person is all properties, land inclusive, that have not been distributed. Whatever is being done here is being held in trust for the beneficiaries of this estate. So most people usually confuse that as family land. If it is estate land, that means every beneficiary is entitled to a share of that piece of land. But family land, we mean land that is owned by family and described under the law. One, this is where there is an ordinary residence of a family. That is where people live, husband and wife, and their children. This law was meant to protect the children and the spouses, who are usually vulnerable and at the mercy of probably one family head, either a man or a woman, who wake up one day and sell all their pieces of land, leaving their children to suffer, or probably homeless even in some instances. Secondly, such land on which is situated the residence, but also is where these families are deriving their sustenances. For the villages and the rural areas, I have given an example of banana plantations, tree plantations, as well as farmland, where people have only that piece of land, and it's where they are grazing their cattle, and it is where they're deriving their sustenance. Look at somebody in Chulhura who is probably a cattle farmer only, and this land is where they are grazing their cattle from. If they have herds of cows, this is going to be taken to be as their family land. But also, in the urban settings, what happens is that most of what we call today family land could be a mere building that probably was given to somebody, commercial in nature, and this is where this family derives sustenance. They are probably renting somewhere, but they're saying, okay, this is where we get money for school fees, this is where we get money for feeding from all these tenants. So that can also be qualified to be as family land. Then the third is such pieces of land which the family has freely and voluntarily agreed to treat or qualify as family land. The example I've given is land that is usually gazetted by families as burial grounds. When we go to our traditional African societies and families, some of our families have land that is gazetted for worship. You will find a hill and they will tell you, no, our gods and spirits are on that land. So it is family land. You cannot tamper with it unless the entire family has given consent. But also, the family could, according to their culture and customs, or even traditions, religion of that family, say, no, look, all this land is going to be gazetted as a family land. So basically, that is family land. And for all that, you must ensure, if you're buying such land, that you have the consent of the spouses. The other one is notice, but this is basically described in all this, that as a buyer of a piece of land that is not registered, you must have notice of all these other interests that are probably bound to happen on the pieces of land. Here, courts have again given guidance that we have notice that could be constructive and notice that could be imputed. If you came and visited land and you found my house there, you probably didn't ask me or didn't care, but you knew that I wasn't part of the sellers. You have known, you have been put to notice that there is somebody who is doing what? Who is on this land and has an interest. So if you went to buy land and you're seeing a signpost that buyer beware, or this land is not for sale, sell, and you go ahead and buy it, that was outright notice, and you saw it, you knew it. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are a few points that you need to do the due diligences and have them on your fingertips. I have always encouraged my colleagues and friends, even business associates, that it is always cheaper to hire a lawyer to do the due diligences while you are buying land, other than waiting for this lawyer to defend or sue institute a suit in courts of law for recovery of land that you could have lost out of not doing the due diligences.
So, Counsel, as you take us to the next step, that most important information we need to know, I just have a question. Many people say when you're going to buy land, you need a lawyer or maybe someone in the legal fraternity to be by your side, maybe to also guide you. Others say the most important person is a surveyor. As you're kickstarting the process, who is the most important person in your perspective when I'm planning to buy land, whether for a project or for commercial use?
Thank you, Ugaman. When you're buying land, there is no most important person. Everybody is important. You have seen a meme saying that even a village drunkard is going to be important. Of all the people you've mentioned, I cannot say it's a surveyor or a lawyer, but what I can do is give you their input in your buying land. As a lawyer, I may not be able to know or get for you coordinates of the land, but I have told you that unless you have coordinates of untitled land, your land is going to shift the next day. The next day you come, they're going to tell you, now your plot is down there, because you don't have conclusive proof of where your coordinates were. But if you have a surveyor and they have taken or picked coordinates, those coordinates are not going to change. There you are safe. Now, unfortunately for the surveyor, he may not probably be able to know what family land is. He may not probably be able to know whether this is actually estate land. May not be able to know whether actually this land, as an estate land, was out of genuine letters of administration. May not be able to verify all those. This surveyor probably may not be able to interpret a court order that is probably affecting this piece of land, or a court battle. So, legally speaking, both surveyors and lawyers are necessary at the purchase of untitled land. So do not hesitate to use both of them, and do not be comfortable using one of them. We shall agree, colleagues on the call, that amongst our colleagues as lawyers, we have people who have become unscrupulous and they have taken advantage of our clients. Either way, the surveyors are crying of the same. We are having titles created over others. And what causes this? This is because of the unscrupulous services of these professionals. So if you have two on board, I think you're safe.
Yeah, Counsel, you mentioned about scrupulous people, and I think there is actually a saying these days that there are so many hustlers on the street, including lawyers. You'll tell us if lawyers are hustlers these days, but it's being said out there. We can't run away from it, so I have to let you know. So, Counsel, the other question that I would really fundamentally maybe like to know is, there is land sometimes where you're required to check with the city authorities. There's land where sometimes you're required to check with the local government authorities. There's land where you can basically deal with the NLC one. What is the advice for anyone that buying, different types of land in different locations, and who should be fundamental, especially, say, if I want agricultural land and I make sure that what I'm buying is actually can be used for agriculture, or if I want to build an industry, a factory or something like that, how do I get to know, and which kind of people give me this guidance?
Thank you very much. Like I was mentioning, is that in buying land, everybody is important. And thank you very much, because the question now highlights all the other important sectors in the buying and purchase of untitled land. One, if we're in Mbara or any other city, we have what we call city planning boards. And these have already done a master plan of the city or the area of how the development should be. So before you buy land, you need to know the purpose of why you're buying this piece of land. And this way, you will now know, where do I go? Because today, if you want a residential piece of land, you may probably know which areas to go to. But all these are gazetted and they are known, because these cities and the Physical Planning Act clearly clarifies and states that any city should have a plan that is gazetted and known to people. Now, if you don't have a lawyer or a surveyor, you may not be able to know which area is gazetted for that. We have had scenarios of people buying land, but probably in a road reserve or in a place that has already been earmarked and gazetted for creation and establishment of a road. Once you're done with the Physical Planning Authority, the other most important authority is the NEMA. That is the National Environment Management Authority. These have also categorically marked and outlined the pieces of land that may not be bought for specific purposes and uses. You are not going to go to forest land and say, I want to do a commercial building here, because the NEMA Act is very clear. And then the other important thing that you must check with, even when you're buying untitled land, ensure to check with the land registry. Why do I say this? Untitled land is a funny venture. Today, you will walk onto a piece of land and somebody will very much assure you that this land we have occupied it for the last 10 years, and actually there is no title for this land. So you are safe by, don't ask me for the title. Upon purchase of that land, poor young man with all your savings, or even probably you've borrowed some money, 2 years down the road, somebody will come with a title. So how do you know that such land has a title? Go to the land registry and do a search. Do not hesitate to go and do a search, even when they tell you it is untitled land. But the search you're going to do here is a different one. And again, this is where you're going to need the services of a surveyor. The surveyor is going to come on ground and pick coordinates of this particular land that is allegedly not titled, and then they will go feed them into the system. If the system returns a negative, or probably they can't locate the piece of land, you will be safe. They shall know this is untitled land. But if the system says, oh, please, buyer beware, this is titled land, it is comprised in this piece of title, block this, plot this, then you will know that, okay, I was dealing with a fraudster.
Okay, fantastic, Counsel. I do have Ndugu Munabi Philip online, and I think he wants to have an input in this conversation. Philip, if you could unmute your mic, just simply introduce yourself and go ahead. Philip, can you hear me? Simply introduce yourself and go ahead.
Thank you, Ugaman. I hope I can be heard. I have two issues. I'm called Philip Munabi. I am an advocate practicing in Kampala. One is a concern where you asked about the role of a surveyor and a lawyer. Two issues I'm called. And my argument there is, we might argue from daybreak to close of day. My stand is that a lawyer is needed before the fact. The moment you think of buying land, think of a lawyer. You'll find that many times, many of the controversies that arise, a lawyer was excluded from the transaction at any one point, be it after purchase agreement, be it after due diligence, or they even never considered him when they were doing due diligence. So you come back to the lawyers for a land controversy, like Ugaman had said. Many of the controversies are on land. And then you start disturbing a lawyer. But had you considered this lawyer in the beginning, surveyors also, if they were considerate to their customers, surveyors, land brokers, those people who are into land business, it doesn't hurt if you have a lawyer within Amity that does your due diligence, because due diligence is the first step. Everything that Counsel has been talking about falls back on due diligence. So in my opinion, even if it was a debate of village life and urban life, which one is better, I would stand on the fact that you need a lawyer before the fact. That is one. My second issue is a question, because I'm calling in from Kampala, and I would wish to know, or either Counsel or Amity to highlight to the people or bring it open to the people, whether there is designated untitled land, like the case in Uganda. You will know that if you are going to buy a plot of land in Naweru, in parts of Naweru, there is what we call Kabaka land. So you'll know in many of those areas, they'll tell you it is it is an agreement. Dagano, Awandagano. They even don't talk about a title or what, but they say Awandagano. Are there parts in Sembara where you know that if you go to Ready Corner, that area has no title? If you go to Kakoba, that area has mostly titled land. That is my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philip. Counsel, Allan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Philip, for the comment and supplement. To answer your question is that in Imbara, unlike in Buganda, you will be shocked that you cannot say with certainty that that piece of land, that chunk of land, does not have a title, because we have had various programs here running. We have land that was originally land belonging to the Omugabe or Vankore, that is known, but some of it is under title and some of it is non-titled. Then there is land also that was formerly belonging to the Uganda Wildlife Authority, where we had the reserve. Part of that land also is titled, and others, individuals who have not yet gotten titles, don't have titles on that land. It is not titled land. Then you also have land that was originally government ranches and schemes. All these pieces of land, some of those have titles and others do not have titles. So I cannot speak with certainty and say this chunk of land in Imbara or Kashari does not have a title. So we shall have to go back to the due diligences and ensure that we tick off all the boxes that we've talked about above. Okay, as Ugaman gets back on board, I think he has had a small...
Counsel, I'm here. Actually, I was wondering if it's you that had gone off, but I think we had a network glitch there. Now, Counsel, also Phil mentioned something. I want to know if you are in support or not. He says, for avoidance of any issues, that legality issues that may arise, it is very important from the word go, as you're planning to buy land, that you actually have a lawyer get to know about this or get to know about the business you are about to do in terms of transacting land property. Do you agree with his sentiment? And if not, why not?
Ugaman, I cannot dispute what my colleague is saying, that a lawyer is necessary before the fact. He has given very clear examples, and I want to assure our listeners that today the Law Society boasts of close to 4,500 lawyers. These are no longer the few lawyers that we knew in the days. Please, when you're out there, anything you think about, especially buying land, now that it is the topic today, more especially untitled land, please do not hesitate. Do not even think about it. Do not contemplate. Do not debate it. Do not even consult your spouse on whether or not to use a lawyer. Your only question about using a lawyer should be, what particular lawyer should I use? That's the only question you should be asking about buying untitled land. But I don't want anybody with their hard-earned money going out there into a venture of buying land untitled, and they're saying, do I need a lawyer? Actually, you can exclude all the other people and have a lawyer on board. I am not giving a guarantee, but I am saying a lawyer is that important when it comes to buying untitled land. Lawyers have been known in courts to be expensive, but I've told you that today the society has expanded. We are talking about 4,500 lawyers. They are scattered. 10 years back in Mbara alone, we had about 5 lawyers. Today we speak of 60 lawyers in Mbara. So your question should not be whether or not to use a lawyer. Your question should be, which lawyer do I use? Thank you.
Fantastic. That actually sheds more light now. I think some of our listeners now know how important it is to have a lawyer in this whole process. So, Counsel, before I invite people to ask you questions, I just wanted you to help us understand, because I know there is also this thing where they say that sometimes you need to go through real estate companies to buy land, genuine land, but we also know that there have been issues where some people have gone to real estate companies and ended up in trouble. I know one of the brands that powers this conversation is Amity Realtors, this being our third episode. We've not had any issues related to, clients that have faced challenges in terms of buying, fake titles or fake land. But I know there are people out there that have been victims of this. So what should be also the check marks? If someone is really, really interested and they don't want to deal with individuals, but they want to deal with real estate companies, say, for example, like Amity Realtors, who are real estate, established in Western Uganda, what should they look out for? And how should they be able to determine that, hey, maybe I'm buying from a street hustler who is disguising to be a real estate company, or this is a genuine company? What should be those check marks?
Thank you, Ugaman. About whether or not to buy from real estate companies and individuals, for me, the take is that when it comes to a real estate company like Amity, I'll speak for Amity because personally, I have been a customer of Amity. I have bought some land from them, but also I have done some due diligences for Amity on some of their lands and properties that they are about to purchase or to sell. Now, what happens is that the law alone, when you are forming such a company, is going to have some requirements for you. And for me, while dealing with a real estate company, the catch is that these have absorbed all my concerns, queries, and due diligences. Reason being, a real estate company like Amity is going to have a land surveyor. They will probably have a land valuer on board that even before they buy any land, they're going to have somebody to value it. They will probably have somebody to check with the physical planning. Their lawyer or anybody else charged with doing that due diligence is going to find out all those concerns. The land we are buying, before we give it to our customers, is it family land? Is it titled land? Is the title encumbered? So those are the benefits you get from these real estate companies that they are going to do for you all those due diligences. Of course, this may not be available for an individual. If you're coming to me and you're buying land from me, I probably don't know how many squatters are on my land, or I'll even probably hide the fact from you. But a real estate company has an image to protect and also has legal sanctions that might follow from the sale or purchase of land that is in controversies or that actually does not even exist. So, however, we have had instances and challenges, especially in more developed cities. I'll speak of Kampala and Wakiso, where some real estate companies have been termed to be crooks, and they are not genuinely selling land, but they're out there to fleece people of their money. So you have to look out for such companies, look at their reputation, what are their customers saying or speaking. But also, you as an individual buying land, do not take what this property master or real estate dealer is telling you for granted. Do not take it as the sole truth. There's nothing stopping you. And at one point in court, you'll be asked, did you personally ever do any due diligence on that land before you purchased it? Thank you.
Fantastic. You mentioned of due diligence. I know a number of people who are so much used to WhatsApp these days. They just see the pictures and they're like, oh, this is a good property. Let me go and pay. So you just heard Counsel saying you must go there and do your due diligence. Perhaps I would also love to hear from someone at Amity. If someone is out there and works with Amity, maybe you could send me a request and be able to speak to us focus on this issue. I just want to know the experience of customers and their desire to go and see the properties before they pay off, whether Amity actually asks them to do so, or the customers are already aware that they are supposed to do so, say like go to the field and visit and maybe, look at the properties before they pay. I would love to know that analogy to see if maybe people out there are already aware that they are supposed to do due diligence, or Amity as a company takes it upon itself to say, hey, before you pay us, let's take you there so you can confirm what you are going to be buying. But away from that, I need to just add back Philip. Philip, I think, has something to say here before I go ahead with my other question to Counsel. Philip, if you can hear me. Philip, go ahead. Philip, can you hear me? Okay, looks like Philip does not hear me. Counsel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, Philip is here. Philip, go ahead.
A few issues caught my attention from Counsel's submission. One was on liability. The question you had of if someone goes to a land broker, how will they know that this person they're buying from is genuine and all that? The liability, my issue is the liability of a company like Amity and the liability that a lawyer might have over a transaction also has its effect. For instance, a law firm in Bara like Katembeko, one has a registered address and a regulatory body, which is Uganda Law Society. So if you entrusted a law firm or a lawyer who also has a registered address and regulated by Uganda Law Council, if you entrust, to the listeners out there, if you entrusted these people with a transaction and this lawyer messed up your transaction, calling for like having an action against him is easier than when you go after a company. The same message I sent to the companies that deal in land. If you do your due diligence with a law firm or a lawyer registered in Uganda Law Society and Law Council, you can easily have them sanctioned for their action. However, to people who do away with lawyers, we've had transactions where a client walks in, clients walk in, buyer and seller. You ask the buyer, have you seen the land? They're like, yes, I like the land. I've seen it. I like it. I want to pay. These people should know that lawyers, wise as they are, there's always a clause that will exempt a lawyer from any outcome that may arise out of your failure to do due diligence. Because some people meet in hotels, they discuss the land, somewhere like they have seen it on Amity website, they like it, they go into a transaction without even visiting the land. A lawyer can have a clause to exempt him from any liability put into your agreement. So it takes us back to why you need to do due diligence from the word go. Thank you. Those are the things that caught my attention.
Fantastic. Thank you, Philip. That was very, very interesting. Counsel Allan, there is someone here. Praise has a question. She says, thank you very much for elaborating why it is important to do due diligence. But she's also asking a question. How do you know the real estate company you're dealing with has paid off the original owner of the land before the clients can buy from the real estate company? And is that important anyway?
Thank you, Ugaman, and Rotarian Praise for asking that question. I see you're a Rotarian, and I am a Rotarian too. But it is important, and we actually must ask, because unless this real estate company has an agreement of purchase of that particular piece of land, they unfortunately cannot pass any title to you, because we have seen in earlier discussion that anybody who doesn't have an interest in the land cannot pass an interest in the land. So, but challenging is that most of these real estate companies will not actually show you that particular agreement of purchase. But this is where now you will need services of a lawyer, because as a lawyer, he can access that information on behalf of their client. And you as an individual, it could be hard, and a particular company may not be willing to disclose for still confidentiality reasons. They probably bought an acre of land at 10 million, and because they're in a profit-making business, they are selling it to you at 20 million shillings, something that may not augur well with any purchaser or buyer of land. So engage a lawyer, and then he will do for you all that background check. Fortunately, if such land is titled land, you're going to find that that land is already registered in the names of that real estate company. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. I have Ndugu Ntari on the.
Okay, thank you very much. My question goes to Counsel. Right now we have had some cases. The media is awash with a lot of cases where people show up with land that is titled, but then you realize that there are two people claiming ownership of land, and all of them with clear land titles, all offered by the Ministry of Lands. How does using a lawyer protect the client from such cases where you find that one piece of land, two legitimate owners, two legitimate land titles, all issued by the same land board? So I need to know, I need some clarity on how. So I know you must have been exposed to some of these cases. You must have seen them in the media where such cases happen. So how do you, in case of such an incident, how does someone get around it? I thank you very much.
Counsel Allan, over to you.
Thank you very much. True, we have had such scenarios in our jurisdictions today, and what is happening is that there are two questions actually. How is it resolved? And then secondly, how does a lawyer help you find out all this? If you came in earlier on the chat, we noted that the first thing a lawyer is going to do is do a search on this piece of land and know actually whether the vendor or seller tells me that it is unregistered land or registered land, me I'll proceed and do the search. If I go to lands and do a search with the use of a surveyor who has picked coordinates from that particular land, I'll be able to know that, look, this land is already titled. It is probably a lease that probably is about to expire or has expired from government or the Kabaka or anybody, or it is Milo or it is what. But if you do not do a search, there is no way you're going to probably know that such land is titled. Then secondly, how is this resolved? That is still section 59 of the Registration of Titles Act, where it says that a certificate of title is conclusive evidence of ownership, but also this section implies that there cannot be two titles over the same piece of land. Now, because of probably our fraudulent or maybe loopholes in the land registration system, we have managed to have, unfortunately, two titles issued to a specific piece of land. How it comes about, a surveyor could be in more capacity to explain that, or somebody at the level of the Commission of Land Registration But how we have dealt with it as lawyers and courts of law is that we have a very simple principle. The number one, the first in time prevails. And here we look at another equity maxim that says equity aids the vigilant. If I bought land and you too claim to have bought that same piece of land, the first question will be, who bought first? Now, the important thing you need to note here is that when we talk of buying land, all we require is a land purchase agreement. A land purchase agreement stipulating one, I, Allan Musasile, have bought how much land. Must stipulate the buyer, how much they have bought. I mean, in piece in terms. Then who am I buying from? If I am buying from you, then the question is, where is this land located? So that is the land purchase agreement. And how much have I paid? Now, the most interesting part here is that once I have signed that agreement of purchase, I am a buyer of land. All what the vendor or somebody selling to me land is entitled to is the balance or remainder of the purchase price. We have seen people who have mastered this piece of advice or legal position. Even a land that costs 100 million, if somebody deposits 1 million shillings, interestingly, they have purchased land. And all the vendor is entitled to and can claim in courts of law is the 99 million shillings, unless that contract for purchase of land is cancelled, repudiated, or otherwise. But now we are talking about when those two titles exist, the question in law is going to be which title came in first. Any title that came in first, unless otherwise it can be proved that such title was acquired fraudulently, then that title will stand and we shall respect that. What will happen to the second title is that title is going to be cancelled, and where does the loss fall? So many questions will come into play. If this person who bought land could, by mere check or doing the due diligences we've seen above, noticed that actually this title, the first title existed, then that person may not be entitled to any compensation. However, if the second title owner could not have noticed that actually this title ever existed, then that is an innocent buyer of land. And they call them, or in law we call them, a bona fide purchaser for value without notice. So what happens is that such person is entitled to claim to claim from the vendor whatever he had paid, probably with any interest, depending on what agreement they had. So basically, that is what we deal. That is how two titles are dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel. I just want to remind you, all our listeners, ladies and gentlemen, this conversation is powered by Amity Realtors, a real estate agency in Western Uganda, who are helping people find commercial plots, agricultural plots, and residential plots within Western Uganda. So please go ahead, do follow them. They are part of this conversation. Do follow their handle and reach out to them so you can be able to get genuine land that suits the value of money you take to them. So, Counsel, I also have Esther online. Esther, if you could unmute and go ahead with your introduction and your input in this conversation.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Ugaman. Well, my question to you, Counsel, is what are the procedures taken if one wants to sell untitled land, but okay, they have agreements but no title?
Thank you very much, Esther. Counsel, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Esther. For somebody wanting to sell untitled land, there are basically very few things you have to do. Number one, ensure that your land is not encumbered. By encumbered, we mean that those other interests in the land, have them all cleared. If you had mortgaged this piece of land somewhere, if you have squatters on it or tenants, make sure they are either recognized or bring them to the attention of the buyer. Then secondly, let us have your piece of land measured. You know the measurements of your piece of land, because as a seller, if you just say, I have a piece of land that is about one playground, you might end up losing a lot of money if you don't know how much your piece of land, rather how big your piece of land is. So engage services of a surveyor and have that piece of land surveyed such that you know whether actually the actual acreage you talk about is there or it is less. Then secondly or thirdly, as a seller of land that is not titled, make sure where necessary you get all the relevant parties to consent. That is, we are talking about family land or customary land, and in other cases where you are a tenant and there is a landlord of that land and you are just a mere chibanja holder. So, or you just have an interest in this piece of land. And then in cases of land that is estate land, what people normally call family land. In our earlier discussion, we have categorically clarified what estate land is and what family land is. So in case of land that belongs to an estate, make sure all the beneficiaries of that estate have signed for you and they consent for you to deal in that land, such that we do not have instances of these beneficiaries coming back and claiming ownership of the same. Okay, I think briefly that is it. Thank you. But basically, all the other due diligences that somebody is buying land will still apply to this person who is selling land.
Okay, thank you, Counsel. I do have a very interesting, point from some friend of mine who is in Canada. He is saying that they, as Ugandans in the diaspora, are always very much interested in buying land back home, but they face a huge challenge of being defrauded most of the time. So he's saying, what are Counsel's points of advice to people staying in the diaspora who are interested in buying land here, and how they can be able to get genuine land even when they are not on ground?
Thank you very much, Ugaman. And for your friend who is in Canada, we have personally, as a law firm here in Mbara, that is Katemeko and Company Advocates, received many of these clients, and we have been able to help them. But our basics are usually simple. Whatever we do, we keep you posted. Whatever we do, you have a backup plan. Any step we take, you are posted. Number one, when you look at the land registry today, they are under some developments. They're undertaking some developments to have their entire system uploaded online. Internally, they have done it. What they're doing now is releasing parts of this system to the few stakeholders. And good news is that the lawyers are part of these people that are going to be accessing this system. There is a pilot that is out there, and lawyers can do basic searches on there. They have piloted it with the URSB, One Stop Shop Center, and I think also the Uganda Investment Authority is doing this. So you can do a simple search from those people in those offices online. And once you've done this, even you who is in Canada, you are going to be able to receive this. But also, look at our titles. Our certificates of title have the new ones under this new system. They have a security feature. They all have barcodes. And when you look at this barcode, it is a simple thing. We are all online. We all have probably scanners on our phone. You just get an app, scan this barcode or read the barcode using a barcode reader. And once you have scanned it, that code is going to give you all the details of the title, the plot number, the block number, and the owner, the registered owner of that title, and exactly when, the time and date when they registered. It will also give you what we call the instrument number of that particular transaction when this person was registered. So that way, even if you're abroad and you're sent something like that, if you can have somebody in Uganda on ground scan for you that title and then show you all those details, including who last previously owned that piece of land. But lastly and most importantly, use a lawyer. My colleague, my land friend Philip, has categorically stated that with a lawyer, I have an address. We are talking of, I will speak for myself, Katembe Company Advocates. I wasn't here in 1979 when the firm started, but here I am. And we have all those records. There are clients who come here from 1980 and are asking for their records. We have given them their records. Reason being, by the time someone is practicing under a law firm and they're enrolled as an advocate, they have gone through certain training of how to keep clients' documents, and also they have somewhere where they're held accountable. In Uganda, we have the Law Council and the Law Society, but the Law Council deals with the discipline and conduct of advocates. If you have an advocate who has fleeced you of your money, you're going to report them to the Law Council and they will handle. But imagine a scenario of where you're in Canada, with your hard-earned money, you are sending it to your brother. That is absurd, because the only place you can probably report your brother to is your father. Let's imagine your father is deceased, it's going to be your uncle. And imagine your uncle might probably be a drunkard at the village and may not help much. So, but in cases of a lawyer, even the money you are sending to a lawyer is going to go to a farm account. As lawyers, we are required to have two accounts. Number one is the firm account, and number two is the client's account. We have an account where we keep money that we hold in trust for our clients. Let's say my client Joanita is in the UK and she's sending me money to buy for her land. I am not going to ask her to deposit that money on my firm account. She is going to deposit that money on the client's account. And all money that goes there is strictly held in trust for that particular account. So once I receive your money, I'll go withdraw it and use it for the exact purpose that you sent me that money for. So let us use a lawyer, but also where necessary, engage due diligence, do the simple diligences that we can do online or even by a third party. But the third party is still here. The encouragement is that lawyers are many today in Uganda. The question should not be on whether or not to use a lawyer, but the question should be, which lawyer do I use? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Counsel. Before I go to my next question, which is very interesting, Philip, you seem to have something to say here. Philip, if you could unmute and go ahead. Philip, if you could unmute your mic and go ahead.
Thank you, Ugaman. What I wanted to advise your friend or people who are abroad, I think they have a lot of trust issues for the professionals that are here. And you find that they are largely defrauded in that way. They contact us many a times. Hey, Counsel, I need this. You tell them, you give them your charges. He never comes back to you. The next thing you hear, he gave money to a girlfriend here, or a singer, or some brother. And by the time they come here, their money has been fleeced. They have no one to run to. So they should also rethink, because you see, it is quite funny that they work and live in more organized societies. These societies in the UK, US, Canada, have laid down procedure. But when they are trying to do something at home, you find that they will avoid what would be the legalities the other side, or the legalities here, and do their transactions, maybe unknown to their family, unknown to their wives, etc. But as they do it, they are defrauded. So it is also critical that they rethink their strategy of investing back home, gain more trustful professionals here, and do work the way it is supposed to be. It is quite hard for a lawyer, I'll speak from my side, it is quite hard for a lawyer to defraud you. I've had an instance, I have a friend in the US, surprisingly, someone who defrauded him works with him in the US. He was selling him a piece of land in Kitezi. None of them has reached Kitezi to see the land, but the person is busy buying. So it is good standard that they also consider the professional standards when they are trying to invest or purchase land here. They will avoid being defrauded. Thank you.
Okay, as Ugaman comes on, I hope we are still on.
Yeah, Counsel, we on. Unfortunately, someone was busy disturbing me here. Okay, cool. So, Counsel, there is another question here coming in from Collins. Collins says commercial banks lately have played a huge role in the crisis when it comes to land transactions. Case in point, there are people who have taken their titles to commercial banks to borrow money, and the commercial banks have also played in the back to have this property that has been given to them as collateral also sold when it is still at the bank level. I don't know what you have to say about that, Counsel, and that is coming in from Collins. He just wants your comment on that issue.
Okay, what I would say about people dealing with commercial banks and then retaining their titles, it is a simple concern. We have noted it in this chat before, that one, let's have a lawyer before the fact. You are dealing in land and you are dealing with a bank. A bank, as a financial institution, has an entire loans committee that is going to assess your loan. They have people who are going to come and value your land. But stupid me, a Ugandan, I am walking into this bank alone. I am walking into a battle of 100 guns with just a spear. Let's look at that. Is that fair? It is not fair enough. So it is basic that anybody transacting in land or even money lending or mortgaging, please have a lawyer by your side. Because at the end of the day, we know that once you have cleared your mortgage obligation, the bank is not entitled to keep your title. The bank is actually obliged to give what we call a mortgage, or originally they used to be caveat release letters before the Mortgage Act of 2002, but today we talk about a mortgage release. The bank will issue a mortgage release letter and they will categorically state that this gentleman had mortgaged with us this property, but because he has paid his obligation, loan obligation, he has fulfilled it, we therefore no longer have an interest. Please, Registrar of Titles or Commissioner, have this caveat that we had registered, or the mortgage that we had registered on this title removed. Yes, I'm talking about this because we have had clients, even when the title is returned to them, a mortgage is still on the certificate of title. And incidentally, anybody doing a search and finds such a mortgage, what we call an encumbrance, is probably going to be pushed away, is going to query the transaction, and they may not buy your land. So it is not enough for you to receive the title, but also ensure that all the necessary steps are done to have your title free of encumbrances. To avoid any inconveniences from these financial services, the financial institutions, please engage services of a lawyer. Thank you.
Fantastic. I don't know if Philip has something to say. Philip, do you have a comment on that as we wind up this conversation? Okay, cool. So Counsel, I just wanted you to be able to give us parting
I
shots.
think the
okay, cool.
Colin's
Philip is
question
here.
has been is one of the issues that has been addressed in the progressive
cool.
school.
So Counsel, I just wanted you to be able to give us parting shots. Okay. Philip, go ahead. Philip, go ahead. I had just gone ahead because I couldn't hear you earlier on. But go ahead, Philip. I couldn't hear you earlier on. But go ahead, Philip.
Okay, I had stopped where I was saying that is one of the questions that has been addressed in the progressive schools case, where ABSA, the former Barclays Bank, sold off property that belonged to the school. We cannot say that there was no legal advice in the bank, but like Allan said, sometimes you're a lone ranger facing a battle of 1,000 guns. You know what we do. Sometimes you go into a bank, you sign documents you have not even read. Their fonts are even too small. You can't even understand what they are writing. But your mind is actually on getting the money more than the property that you're pledging. It is until you default that you start looking through the loan agreement, thinking to yourself whether due diligence was done on your property, whether proper valuation was done. So it is always key. There's in the Land Act, there's what they call independent advice. More so where there is a family proper, where there's a spouse involved, you'll get independent advice. So it is also critical that when you're dealing with commercial banks or any money lenders, you get independent advice from the parties that are within the transaction. Thank you very much. That is what I would say about it. And thank you for the platform. It's really insightful. I pledge to always be part of it. And thanks to the presenter and the host. Those are my parting shots. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philip, and we really appreciate your time and all the insights that you have shared with us. Counsel Allan, your parting shots.
Thank you very much, Ugaman, for the opportunity to host me. And for Amity, I am very happy that you chose to work with Katembeko and Company Advocates on this. I do not take this as an individual, but as a firm, we take pride in this. I am sure there are so many other firms in Imbara or lawyers that you could have worked with, but you chose a firm that has probably been around since 1979, or probably because of its reputation and all that. But I'm really grateful, and I hope moving forward, we have this discussion as a weekly engagement. As a firm, we have decided to give back, and then because we have realized that many of the cases we have in court today could have been avoided if people were aware of such information like we have shared out today. I have given an example of, imagine you have 100 acres of land and you're selling 1 acre. This land probably is not titled, or even if it is titled, but you have not surveyed this piece of land. If you haven't surveyed it, your plot will probably keep shifting to the sample area until it probably disappears. As we part from this discussion of buying untitled land, my parting shots are two. Number one, once you have purchased this untitled land, kindly I am begging you, take occupation of your land. Occupy your land in whatever way you can. If you occupy your land, you are avoiding illegal trespassers or encroachers. People you have not authorized to be on the land. You can occupy land in many ways. You can develop it. You can hire it out for another developer. But as you're doing all this, if you're creating third-party rights, please engage services of a lawyer, because before you know it, the person you're hiring out this land to could also be another crook that is going to defraud you and later turn around to say that this land is mine. And then secondly, if you have managed to buy unregistered land and you have successfully bought it, kindly have this land brought under the Registration of Titles Act and have it registered, because we have seen that titles are a safer way to transact with in land, and anybody with a certificate of title has conclusive ownership of that title unless otherwise proved to have been acquired fraudulently. And as we part, I would like us to give a moment of silence to our departed Honorable Justice Kenneth Kakuru. He has been a pillar in the administration of justice. He has given us very key decisions on land administration in Uganda, and then property acquisition, property rights, human rights. We remember him for so many cases. But for me, the case I am interested in is the Mifumi Uganda Limited case and others versus Attorney General, where he gave a very important decision, and then it has been upheld and it has been adopted concerning the distribution of property, and then dissolution of marriage, and then customary marriages, talking about the property and the rights of women to own property. So I mourn with the family and the entire legal fraternity for the loss of such a titan. Some of us who have known him closely before, we have known that he has been ill and he has been battling an illness, but may his soul rest in peace, and may the good Lord comfort his dear family and all the legal family. Thank you.
Fantastic. We send our condolences and, sympathies to the family. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, Counsel Allan. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Esther. And thank you, everybody that has contributed. For those of you that have been sending in your messages, well done. Thank you very much. We will be coming back to you next Tuesday with another interesting topic that we'll let you know about before the discussion. And I also want to extend my special thanks to our sponsors, Amity Realtors Limited, a real estate agency in Western Uganda, for doing an amazing job. This is our third episode of talking about land and conversations related to that field. So I'm very, very glad that we're back, and I hope 2023 will be a different year, that we'll be able to reach out to as many people as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't take this for granted. Knowledge is power, and of course, if you have it, then you're empowered to take the decisions that are right. So thank you very much. We'll see you again next Tuesday, same time, 8 p.m. to 9:30. God bless you all. Cheers.
Cheers.